Nandi, since the Supreme Court hasn't stayed the order by the Karnataka High Court, the notification of the Karnataka government stands. Ma'am, what are the questions before the court going forward?
I think it's very important to understand that this is not a question of whether you are pro-hijab or anti-hijab. That's the conversation on Twitter, right? I think this is a conversation in the Supreme Court. The conversation is constitutional and hence completely different. The conversation is this, that if you go by what Justice Dhulia's framing of the question is that under Article 19, is it sufficient for a conscientiously held religious belief that is not disturbing others, like Bijoy Emmanuel, where the Jehovah's Witnesses were silent and not singing the national anthem, right? Is that sufficient to allow you to wear the hijab? Also, that when it is an individual right, must it be proven that it's an essential religious practice or not? Indeed, is it even required? Because don't essential religious practices, as Justice Dhulia has, I think in a very, very important statement, he has said that when you find that something is an essential religious practice, you are taking away the choice of people to agree with it or not, or to interpret the religion according to their own conscience. And this is essential because many religions are controlled by patriarchs, by conservatives, by throwbacks, right? And what this does, what his judgment does, it says that, look, it doesn't matter whether it's an essential religious practice or not. If these young girls felt that it was a conscientiously held belief that they must wear the hijab, then this is something that must be upheld. Now, the thing is that we must deeply understand that this would include the choice not to wear the hijab.
Yes. Okay. Right? Okay.
And because people sometimes juxtapose the Iranian revolution as being contrary to this issue, and it is not. It is entirely consistent. It is the right for people to approach their religion and their schools and their educational institutions
in Iran, because it's an Islamic republic, because it is an Islamic republic, it is not really a choice there. There it is an imposition by the state.
You're absolutely right.
Which begins from the age of 7. So it's not really an agency. What we are seeing play out in Iran, women are and young girls are being forced to wear hijab. Let me take that argument forward with AM Dar.
And it's not inconsistent with this, is my only point.
Okay.
So please, let's hear another voice.
Yes, AM Dar, right to education is a fundamental right now as per the Constitution. It has been given to us. Is right to education now in conflict with right to practice religion? But again, when we look at right to religion, let's not forget that what we are seeing here is minors in most of these cases who are and can be seen that this patriarchal norm is being forced on them. I'll understand that if a woman above the age of 18 wants to wear hijab, it can be seen as choice. But below 18, and if these are government institutions where there is a uniform, then which right prevails? The right of an institution or right of an individual?
This is clear as far as our constitution is concerned. There are 3 provisions in the constitution, articles 19, 22, 25. And apart from that issue, we have a constitutional protection. We are living in a democratic secular country where rule of law is to be maintained. Rule of law shall prevail all the time. And even apart from these 3 articles which I mentioned, there is a preamble in the Indian constitution where you have protection of belief, where you have protection of faith, where you have protection of choice. Preamble has been held by the Honorable Supreme Court to be a constitution. So the Karnataka High Court judgments were totally perverse. It was with all immense respect to the honorable judges. And that is why, since we are living in a democratic country, you see, hijab is basically, there's a commandment from Allah. 3 surahs, 3 verses of Quran are there, which I also recited when I argued the matter on behalf of the petitioners. So therefore, as far as the Quran is concerned, this is the commandment from Allah. How can we forget that? We are asking the girls that they should protect their privacy, chastity, and this is their individual choice. And then since we are living in a democratic country, how can the state, there will be a restriction which are not reasonable? Because you see, Maria, one instance I will give. This was the argument which I advanced before the Honorable Supreme Court in open court. I said that we are wearing a hijab, we are only covering our three vulnerable parts, the head and the chest and the face. So this, in fact, improves the beauty and protects the
Mr. Dar, while I understand that there has been a split verdict, but the question of essential religious practice, I'm going to take that forward with Karuna in just a bit. But before that, Amber Zaidi, while the criticism is that this juxtaposition with women of Iran should not be there, but how can hijab for minors be seen as choice? Don't we know that there has been misuse of the authority that has been given to the men in various societies, and they have misused their authority by forcing certain practices on women, and they have made this about essential religious practice when Quran itself says Iqra, go read, padho, where the emphasis is on education more than covering yourself.
Of course, Maria, I want you to mention that with almost ayat you just mentioned, the people and especially the Muslim leadership who were saying that it is a freedom of choice for girls. Now, when this split verdict has come, now they are saying that it is not a matter of freedom of choice or Article 19, what they have been mentioning. It is essential to Islam, and we have seen numerous High Court rulings regarding that this hijab or burqa is not an essential practice of Islam. We have five commandments which ask us to keep roza, namaz, hajj, zakat, and taqwa and everything, which is required to become a Muslim. But contrary to that, what is and how they have been justifying this regressive practice on young girls, as you said, underage girls. Can we impose such practices on young girls and say that this is their freedom of choice? No, absolutely not.
So it's a convenient logic now to make it about freedom of choice, when it is really not freedom of choice.
Maria, it is where the hypocrisy in ways, where in crucial time where entire globe is looking at India as a nation, that India is the largest democratic republic. And today could have been a bigger day and we could have eradicated, and by declaring or giving a unanimous verdict.
Yes, Ms. Nandi, what we have seen is that what played out in the context of triple talaq. The All India Muslim Personal Law Board kept justifying it, saying that it is part of Sharia law, that it is part of, one moment, Ms. Zaidi, I'm going to come back to you. It was a similar justification that came from the men among the Muslims, that it was part of Quran, that it was Sharia law, that it is imposition, interference with personal laws. All these arguments played out. But when they realized that this is not an essential religious practice, just as hijab is not essential religious practice, they backed off by saying that, we'll be looking at reforms within the society or within the community. Don't you think that when minors are wearing hijab, it's not choice? It is not choice, it's imposition.
Separate questions, Ms. Shakil. Let's go to your second one, that about the imposition on minors, right? These are these are adolescents, teenagers, in the last couple of years of school. I think this is the particular cohort that the notification applied to, right? Now, let's look at what the Child Rights Convention says about choice. The way it works is that there is an evolving capacity of children to choose as they grow older. Also, so therefore, if you look at Bijoy Emanuel, for example, it was a similar argument, it was a similar context where you had Jehovah's Witness children expressing their beliefs, in senior school, right? Also, this is not something I think that came up with any measure of detail in the Supreme Court. So this is my personal view. In terms of what the Supreme Court is saying, it's not there as much. But when you apply this question of conscience to and conscientiously held religious belief, and the power of the state to derogate from Article 19 and Article 25, if it is not within the 8 categories, decency, public health, decency, morality, sedition, etc., in Article 19.2, or under Article 25, public health, morality, etc., right? Then there is no space for the state to make a law limiting people's conscience. Let me give you an example. If you had someone who was wearing a patka in school, is this something that would take away from the fraternity, as the first judgment says, that seeks to take away all hijabs and other religious markers? I mean, not Sikhism, for some reason that is seen to be different, which I completely do not understand. But that judgment says that there must be uniformity, and it is uniformity that breeds fraternity. That, in my very respectful view, is a sort of deep misunderstanding of what fraternity means under our Constitution. Under our Constitution, there is an understanding that we're lots of different kinds of people, and as lots of different kinds of people, we need to respect each other's conscientiously held religious beliefs. The reason that I think that we should be very, very clear, I see the hijab as personally as a patriarchal imposition on women.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Do I think that my conception of this patriarchal imposition should govern what somebody else thinks? No.
Yes.
Do I believe that because I think that high heels are bad for the back, and this is well established, and that I think that they're a patriarchal product of society, that I should ban women from wearing high heels? Absolutely not.
Okay, but the larger question is about the institutions as well.
But this is not about the niqab.
Fine.
This is about a hijab.
Yes. So
let me say that your belief or somebody else's belief or the Hindutva rights belief about what people should wear should govern is,
fine.
I don't think, right or fair.
Yes,
and
but
I don't think that the Islamic Republic of Iran should be telling women to wear hijabs. I don't think that our state should be telling women to take off hijabs.